Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Sai. This is Rabbi Yehuda Levin, and the program is the abbreviated version of the Parshas, heard each and every Wednesday evening for 13 minutes at 6:20 a.m. radio, 7:45. 7:45. So spread the word, join the Torah revolution, let people know about the most exciting, provocative, insightful radio programmette on Jewish radio or any other radio for that matter, where you get the unabridged, unabbreviated, no spin hashkafa of the Gedolei Torah of yesteryear and applications to applying their Das Torah and their hashkafa to current events. Our hearts, this is being recorded, Parshas Pinchas Tofshin Ayin Aleph, Tuesday evening, Wednesday morning. And of course, I'm sure everybody is aware of the horrific tragedy that Yehuda ben Ita Esther, Levi Koletsky, a 9-year-old boy, has disappeared and is being looked for. And I hope that by the time of the airing of this program, we should be zeicha to hear good news. And everybody should try to assess why this kind of a thing, this horrific thing should happen, the worst nightmare for parents, for grandparents, for our community. My dear friends, a month and a half or more after the Agudah dinner in last week's Jewish press, the Friday, July the 8th issue, Lemisparam, from behind my lens, Shimon Golding, I don't know if he actually works for Agudah or he's associated or what, all of a sudden he has an article about Agudath Israel celebrates 89th annual dinner, which he writes and he shows pictures that I assume he took. Right away, the most important thing is not about Torah, it's not about Hashkafa. The most important thing is, in his very second sentence in his article, special recognition was given to Dean Skelos and Sheldon Silva for the responsiveness to the needs of yeshiva students. Now, what's offensive about this is this article, Friday, July the 8th, came out at least a week, if not more, after the passage of the Mishkav Zocha Chazarai, of the same-gender marriage, maybe 2 weeks. So at this late stage, this Agudah Flak is still writing in praise of Skelos, who betrayed us, the Republican, who only 4 Republicans out of 32 voted for this Chazarai. That means 28 were against it, but obviously they weren't against it enough for it not to come out onto the floor for a vote. So Skelos ba'aveled us tremendously. And then, of course, Sheldon Silver. But a picture is worth 1,000 words. So you also have, and I'm holding this up over here, you have a picture here that appeared in the Jewish press, and that's why, if you have a head up at the internet and you see this on thefearkashas.com, where we have archived tens of programs on video and audio, and you can download it, you get to actually see things. Here's a picture of Sheldon Silver, and other Agudah Askalim looking quite happy, and right below them they got a kasha themselves by sticking in a picture of Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky. I wonder if Rabbi Kamenetsky, the Rosh Hashiva of Philadelphia and member of Motzei Gedolei Torah, is proud or is happy or is even aware that they're using a picture that shows that Menuvel, the Nudnikim, Skelos, and much worse than him, is the Jew, the so-called Orthodox Jew, Sheldon Silver. In other words, weeks after the dinner, 2 months after, we have to have this kiss-up article to Agudah, and praising the same thing. It's business as usual. Did Agudah authorize this? Did Golding do this on his own? But it goes from bad to worse. Here's another picture on another page where the article continues. And if you see the picture here, you see Sheldon Silver smiling with Rav Reuven Kamenetsky and Rav David Feinstein. His face is in between, smiling. And the caption says, Rabbi Reuven Feinstein, Sheldon Silver, and Rabbi David Feinstein. You understand, Rabbi Sai, it's business as usual. It's the same cravenness. We call on Agudah, Dayenu, stop the Chazarai. It's enough already. It's coming out of our noses. It's abstoisen. That's a Yiddish word for it's disgusting. Enough already. So the question is, did Golding act alone in doing this? I mean, that the Jewish press has no seichel sensitivity to this thing. This is upgrade because Sheldon Silver's their fair-haired boy, and God forbid that they should ever mention anything, a word, a sentence against Sheldon Silver. So they're more than happy to kosher him, for which they'll also give some kind of a cheshbon at some point. But what's with Agud and what's with Golding? You have to put out these pictures afterwards. Fair. Now let's move on to Rabbi Schoenfeld, who I salute, and I read you in depth his letter from last week opposing with Shmuel Bloom and the silly things that Rabbi Bloom said and the excellent points that Schoenfeld made, Rabbi Schoenfeld, in which he said, is there a greater Chil Hashem than that Speaker Silva appeared at the Aguda dinner and received an honor, etc., even if he was giving money for yeshivas. So Rabbi Schoenfeld realized this. I say this with the greatest love and respect, but Rabbi Schoenfeld, the question is, you as the now rabbi of the young Gizrael of Kew Garden Hills, and you've been many steps ahead of most of the rabbis in New York by speaking out on several occasions on Dov Hiken's show, etc., against the Mishkav Zohar marriage agenda. But the question is where the rubber hits the road, when it's close to home. And I would remind you respectfully that when I called up you, your father, whatever, and I spoke about Jim Gennaro several years ago, who was running against Frank Padovan, there was no, and Gennaro stood for all the schmutz. There was no opposition to Gennaro or many other of the Queen's politicians in an upfront way. I mean, when I say, Rabbi Schoenfeld, it would be appropriate for the Vad HaRabbanim of Queens and for all Queens rabbis, whether members of the Vad or not, to take leadership positions and say State Senator Toby Stavitsky, who voted for this thing, that nobody should be voting for her. There should even be a primary against her with a nice Orthodox Jew, win or lose, or a nice religious Catholic, lahavdil. Would I be correct in saying that it would be appropriate that the Chilul Hashem, Rabbi Schoenfeld, of David Weprin, whose speech was reprinted in Aguda, in Hamodia, and I want to thank Rabbi Dunn for the most excellent article opposing David Weprin and editorializing and bringing down the full scope and thrust of his remarks, boasting that he's an Orthodox Jew, his kids go to yeshiva, and he went to yeshiva, and he's voting for same-gender marriage. Rabbi Schoenfeld, how much longer will we have to wait for the Orthodox rabbinate in your neck of the woods to stand up against Weprin and do lo segura from the Yish? Especially you, and I say this with love in my heart, but especially you, who found it easy, and correctly so, to criticize Rabbi Bloom and to criticize Agudas Yisrael. Now when it's in your backyard, what are the rabbis in Queens going to do? That's the big question, and we'll be sure to inform the people. Again, this is not in opposition to Rabbi Schoenfeld. This is a plea and a petition to do the right thing, and do it loudly and clearly, because the people need hadracha. I have a feeling in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn rabbis, and the message is getting around about Weprin. The question is what's going to be in Queens. Now, I have a psak from the Shor Metzion Balacha that I received, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Brown, the late Shor Metzion Balacha, specifically speaking about this kind of immorality, and speaking again about Kach, but it applies equally now, that the baseline of what's a Chil Hashem is what the Tovim Shebu'umas, the good Gentiles, are doing to fight this. Now, even though the Catholics got involved very late in the game, and if they wouldn't have, just like if Aguda would have gotten involved earlier, they could have swung around a few votes, and if the Catholics would have gotten involved earlier, instead of almost the last minute, they could have swung around votes. But the fact of the matter is that the bishop, as I mentioned, DeMarzio of Brooklyn, wrote an excellent article, before the vote, in which he named names, something which the Orthodox Jewish community, Agudas Yisrael rabbinate, never does. He named Karl Kruger under criminal indictment, and Huntley, and he said it would be very ironic if these people helped pass the bill, and that's exactly what happened. But then after this, he gave out a statement after the bill passed. He said, none of my collaborators, meaning none of his fellow bishops in New York, should give any honor or will accept any honor from any politician. In other words, all of them, because he held even the Republicans were feckless, even the 28 who voted the right way, but it was a wink and a blink, because they knew when they're putting it out on the floor, we're going to lose. So they're evildoers, and all of them should be defeated. And I hope, pray to God, that the Republicans lose their majority in the Senate. They should lose it. Lose it. Now, what Bishop DeMarzio said is not accepting any honors. So the paper told the story already a week and a half ago, about a young man who got $50 scholarship or $100 scholarship from the local Williamsburg assemblyman, a Jewish fellow by the name of Joseph Lentil, who's a tremendous oisvar, a tremendous lowlife, who ignored Williamsburg for many years and votes for all the schmutz. the boy sent back the money, and he said, I'm not going to accept any honor from you, etc. You hear that? Now, what is the hashkafa behind this? Why did this episode have to happen where the boy made so-called a Kiddush Hashem and stood up for the values and followed his bishop who said no honor? Why did it have to be that Hashem showed this was with Joseph Lenthal, the Williamsburg Assemblyman? And the answer is, if you understand Hashkafa, you understand what's going on here. Hashem wants to show us Williamsburgers and Borough Parkers and Queensers and etc. You were busy taking tap, and you were busy in Hamodia praising the lesbian speaker to the rescue that helped you save vouchers. You cut on the same page where you're announcing and baklogen sich and wailing about the passage of the same-gender marriage bill. And on the same front page where you see the community alert about the child molestation, as they say in Williamsburg. You don't get the message? So it's your Joseph Lenthal who's throwing around money to the Catholic, but the Catholic kid, forget about an adult, the kid understands not to take the money. What price are we paying for this tap? And I want to say something here, and they're not going to like this. Isn't it funny when the budget is so tight and Cuomo had to make so many cuts and close prisons and this and that, all of a sudden he's giving the Orthodox Jews millions of dollars next year, not this year, but next year, with tap and schmap? Don't you understand that this was a bribe? In other words, you shut up, you Jews. You're getting the money that you wanted for 10 years. You shut up. You better not make too much noise about this. Were we told even to say a capital Tillim? Nothing. Aguda, we're not stupid. This tap was a bribe. It came at a crazy time, and all of a sudden it sailed through at this terrible economic time. So what we are has been established. We got our price, and now basically shut up. Tell me something. Aguda only did very, very superficial stuff. But right now it's still possible to hold some kind of a lawsuit to criticize the fact they made a secret meeting with Cuomo. In other words, that wasn't open to the public. The New York Times reported about it, which goes against law. There are other reasons that religious individuals are deprived. Why can't Aguda at least put on a show? And why can't they be involved with their Catholic friends they work with on tuition tax credits to initiate a lawsuit? Why can't they show some moral testosterone? Is that possible? I want you to know that the Gentiles are doing something, and on July 24th, on Sunday, at 3 p.m., they're going to meet thousands of them in 5 places throughout the state. But in New York City at 3 p.m., July 24th, at 633 3rd Avenue between East 40th and East 41st, outside Governor Cuomo's residence to protest this bill. Be there, Rabbi Isai. We should be there. This is Yehuda Levin, Guten Tamid.